was rather impromptu. I wanted to share some terms that are likely going to become more familiar here in the next year or so, in case they already have not. So this is I think this is gonna be a 5D Gloss-Ary video. 5D Gloss-Ary. It's a new terminology, which is rad for people like me. Hayoke. Hayoke, haya. Ho, hayoka. Hayoka. Anyway, the word whimsy. I love the word whimsies, and I don't really like I don't like what they've done with the ones that they have now. So I personally am really stoked about the new Gloss-Ary. So in a lot of spiritual circles, you're going to hear things like the space in which someone is coming from. An example of that would be if I were to come to you for a request, so to speak. Any kind of request, whether it's a service or and a service can also include an energy exchange, which we'll cover that part here in a little bit. So I come to you and I want to ask a favor. Okay, so I there's lots of ways that you can do this, and the big part about spirituality is basically, it's like, when they say being aware, it's basically like you're like Sherlock. You notice every thing in your immediate proximity, including other people's emotions if you dabble in the empath realm, which I think we all have all of this stuff. It's just some people have it like, it's stronger in some people. Some areas are stronger and some people have, you're tracking. So I need to ask you a favor. So if somebody wanted to ask you a favor, my core values tell me that if it's a big favor, I need to ask them, call them, and set up a time that I can have a face-to-face. Now, this is all, now if it's just like, hey man, you want to ask your neighbor to freaking take your trash out on a Monday or something like that, this is entirely different. But this is like a heart connection favor, like your request is authentic, okay? Like, no bullshit. I need a favor. It's not like feed your cat for the weekend type stuff. It's like, something big. I don't know, to me that's a ride to the airport, because you're taking somebody else's time. Somebody's willing to take their time out of their day to get you to where you need to be and to save you cost, or in like full-time parking and stuff like that. You know how many people pay for full-time parking that because they don't want to put anybody out? But I don't know, I like being put out because it's like a currency of me giving my time and my space to somebody. So more stuff to define later. Anyway, so something big like that, call up, set up an appointment. Maybe that's a little bit much, but maybe something like that. Like you find out you're a donor match or something like that. That's when you need to call and make an appointment. Can I have a kidney? That's when you can do all that fluff. But my point is, there's degrees. As long as the space in which you are coming from is authentic, people will really be receptive of that and really pick up on that. If they think that you're just like, you're the type of person that just freaking asks ask anybody anything just because the more people that you ask, the chances are someone will say yes. You know, I know you know the type, the people that like make plans, you know, like ask three people, something, a favor, and then one person, or they all respond, but you only pick the one person to get back to. That stuff is rude. That's like dark space. That's like, so basically anything that's coming from a polite, genuine, authentic place is the space in which you're coming from. You get to choose if it's a dark space or a light space. I use light and dark. It's a vibration. It's a frequency. Some people use good, bad, true, false. It's to each his own. That's the cool thing about the ascension process. The ascension process, there's another term. It's big. It's when you start basically in the shell of a nut, is when you have some sort of, there's two different kinds of awakening. There's a kundalini awakening. That's when all your chakras line up. There's 7. That's an assignment for you. You guys can research your own stuff about that. Lord knows I've freaking invested enough time. And besides, a lot of the research on this stuff is really thread. Thanks to my home slice for that visual. The common thread of programming is that we can program ourselves. We can set our viewpoints. Literally, you can, unfollow all the freaking nasty stuff on Facebook. You can freaking, literally on YouTube. I know it's freaking huge. I'm counting on it. People really dialing into YouTube, catching on the YouTube bandwagon. I'm confident that that's happening. Just because it's so important to help us get out the word, because scope is also becoming more and more limited. As you can tell, you don't really get the notifications that you've gotten before. Now, to actually see what's happening, you have to actually refresh your page. So, which is also, I guess I should differentiate. I don't know, I'm just going to put my definitions on this stuff. You can put your own definitions on them. I'll give you a kind of a frame of reference, and you can craft it and decorate that frame however you want. Put whatever stickers on it you want. So, okay, I was talking about space in which you're going on. Oh, ascension. Okay, lining up the chakras. That's the Kundalini awakening. Mine happened in 2014. I had a headache for 6 days and went and got an MRI. They said that my pituitary gland was enlarged. Or I had a CAT scan, and then I went back later for an MRI, and it had gone back down. So, and unironically enough, I'm going to tell that story later. I want to stay focused here because it's hard enough for me to do as it is. And then you have the spiritual awakening. For me, my experience was during a meditation about, I don't know, 8 months ago. And in this meditation, I essentially vaporized. It was like I went down to dark matter. And incidentally, dark matter is just a term. People often like include that or have a perception that dark matter is like evil matter, like the ooga booga, like the scary ooga booga. It's not. It's baseline. It's matter that can't be defined, that they don't know what it is. It's like below. It's like the energy in molecules and atoms and stuff that protons dance around. I always have to picture the cell in my mind, so if I don't... Dude, I was not a freaking straight A student in high school. I barely graduated. I think I had like a 2.0 or something like that. Anyway, it's just because classes were stupid. And I had better things to do. I'd go jump in the lake, literally. Shasta Lake. So spiritual awakening. I vaporized. And so that was, I consider that my spiritual awakening. The point, the instant exactly that I saw me without the eye through my third eye. And from that point on, the pouring of emotion, good, bad, positive, has just been immense. It's truly life altering. And if you ask anyone that's had this process or has gone through this process, the numbers are just every day they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just huge. The consciousness is just expanding, and more people are waking up. It's like the bigger collective consciousness gets in the more like the dark is turning off in the world. So another word, purge. Purging is something that people do to basically, it's kind of like detoxing, but with emotions. That's how I look at it. Like energetically releasing negative ions, juju, what have you, from your energetic self. It is a double-edged sword. It is like the combination to ascension. You're going to hear this a lot. You cannot have a spiritual awakening without purging every ill-conceived notion that you've ever had. I read a book one time. It was a big book. And in it says, your old ideas are absolutely nil until you let go absolutely. Shout out to my friends Bill W. that are still friends. He's a good guy. We're more acquaintances these days, but I'm closer to my buddy Carl Jung these days, and he had a hand in the club, so it's all related to me. Anyway, so purging, yeah, you cannot have it sucks. It freaking sucks. But the cool thing about purging is that once you start releasing all that emotional heaviness from your spirit, that your body gets lighter. Literally. Which brings me into density. Density is how people live in 3D. When people make the conscious decision to live outside of themselves. Good examples of that. I call them plastic people. It's really hard for me to practice authenticity and diplomacy at the same time. All right. Basically every Range Rover driver you've ever met or seen. I've never met one. I met one guy, and he pretty much sealed the deal. I've been in one time. If things go well, I plan to buy one just to drive the shit out of it. Just to beat it to crap. Because of the percentage of the population that it represents to me. People that live in 3D. When you freaking have so much excess that you're pissing it away on stupid shit, and then maybe giving 2% to charity or whatnot just to keep your freaking conscience clear, but you would freaking cheat your kids out on some family time just for some a cocktail party or some crap like that because you want to make your ego inflated. So whenever you're living in ego, you're dense. You are living dense. You are living heavy. You are living 3D. in the dense reality, the more that you let go of all that crap, like unplug, it is not easy to do. I've been divinely guided in my process with being able to be completely unplugged from processes my whole life. Again, that's a double-edged sword too. Anyway, what's happening now is people are starting to live in more 5D, the fifth dimension, where you sit in your own personal knowing, and it can't be questioned. And for me, it took a long time. I mean, I still learn. I still get freaking knocked down. But as long as I go by my gut and my own intuition, I look at that as just as big as a lesson than, where was I going with that? My train of thought just derailed. It's gone. 5D. Living in 5D. Oh yeah, I've been afforded a lot of this. A year. On the 15th of August, I will have lived in Oregon a year, and this is the biggest transformation of my life. But it started, with my Kundalini awakening back in 14. Actually, it started, if you want to go back farther, it started earlier than that, but we'll just call that's when my erupted. My crown freaking about popped my head off. So that living in 5D, when you can strip away your ego, and when you can live in the consciousness where you're just, you there's nothing more than in the world that you want to do than to give people the best day of their lives. And the best part about that is you truly know that you're living there if you can do that without any kind of acknowledgement. That's the trick. That for me, that is the ultimate. And the bigger that I am and I become, the more grandiose gestures I can do. I'm so freaking stoked. That's how I know I'm going to succeed. It's because all of my manifestations are directed towards that goal. So, I think that's a good enough start. We got purging, we got fifth dimension, 3 dimension, density. If you guys have any questions, if you hear words and are just curious about what somebody else's take on them are, there's a lot more. There's so many more words. Your core beliefs, your energetic alignment, your personal constitution. Getting back to that, living true to your core. That includes doing things, that includes, if you don't want to freaking go to a baby shower, don't go. How about out of principle, you live true to yourself instead of freaking going someplace where you don't want to be, acting in a manner that you don't want to act. So, core is a big one. But yeah, if you hear some verbiage and you want my take on it, feel free to put a question in the comments. I'd be glad to help you out with that. All right, this is totally impromptu. I wonder if you can see my coffee stain on my shirt. It's kind of late to be drinking coffee, but it's left over from this morning. Anyway, all right, Marge out.